Canadians also got started in the UEFA Champions League and started goal scoring in the UEFA Champions League as well. There's 5 Canadians in the Champions League this season. 3 of them started on the first day of the competition, and Promise David scores the first Champions League goal in Union Saint-Gilloise history in a 3-1 win over PSV Eindhoven, which had 2 U.S. men's national team players in Serginho Dest and Ricardo Pepi starting, who played well on the weekend prior and certainly must have had their confidence slashed a little bit against Promise David and Union Saint-Gilloise. Brendan, what do you see from Promise David's first UEFA Champions League match?
Promised to be one hell of a Champions League season for Canadian players, didn't it? And I honestly love that. I love that he's the answer to that trivia question that they'll always remember in Belgium, or at least at Saint-Gilloise, no matter how long he remains there. And I love that, like, he did it on that stage. You could tell, just from the commentary in that match, that there was intrigue, that people were curious. And, as much as we paid attention to Saint-Gilloise in the playoffs there, really outside of Belgium, that they're a complete unknown, much like the Cypriot team in the Champions League now. I feel like they're not much different, as much as maybe they deserve to have more attention and deserve to have more eyeballs on them. They will now, and Promise David is a kind of a can't miss player at the moment. So it's fantastic, man. It's great. Like when I was your age, there was a handful of guys in European competition, let alone playing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays or Thursdays, and to have the slate that we have now. And to have, Promise David in the mix, because look, this time last year he wasn't even Canada's mix. It's thrilling. It's really exciting. I think he's deserving of all the accolades and attention, and I expect him with that slate, the fixture list that Union Saint-Gilloise have, including Bayern Munich. I expect him to have some pretty big European nights. He seems there's no fear when the spotlight is brighter for Promise David.
I would say a handful of Canadians. Again, I always watched Thibaut Hutchinson. That was it for a while. And then Alphonso Davies joined him, and that was a foreign concept. And it's just gotten bigger and bigger every year. But Promise David.
You guys were still in diapers when Paul Stalteri was in the Champions League.
Yeah, that was a little
Maybe not. Maybe you guys were a little older. You would have been 5 then. You were in kindergarten, though, maybe. In kindergarten then.
I don't know if there wasn't DAZN around then. It wasn't as easy.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it either. Yeah, you're right. One game a week on TSN they would take from ESPN. That was it.
But yeah, with Promise David, it's just his story, right? Like, we're kind of joking about it before the show even started. Like, it's just the fact that this isn't some prodigy or one of these Canadians that we've seen really grow up to the stage, like Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, even to an extent Tajon Buchanan and the others. Like, this is a guy who was playing in Malta 3 years ago. He's playing in Estonia at the beginning of 2024, and we're now at the end of 2025, and he's a full-blown Canadian international, and he's scoring in the Champions League. It's just his rise, and the fact that every time he gets a door in front of him, he knocks it down. And you almost just knew that it was okay. UEFA Champions League debut. Like, how long is it going to take from the squad? I didn't have 9 minutes on my bingo card, but that was incredible. And yeah, it's a penalty, which, you do wish it was a thundering right-footed shot or a big header. But I do like the penalty angle, because he actually missed his last 2 penalties with USG at the club level. So after scoring, I think, his first 7 or 8. So psychologically, it was probably an interesting battle in his head of, he missed the last 2. Where does he go? Does your coach trust you to take another one? Do your teammates trust you to take the other one? But that's where we realize he's just so strong mentally. And what I love about him, it's the kind of way that you relate to. Like, he's funny about it. Like, he even he's in his post-game interview with UEFA, he kind of joked. He's like, yeah, I just kind of head down, picked a side, and prayed. Like, there wasn't this whole comment as of, I knew my corner, I was always going to score. Like, there was a bit of that jovial of, I just, even though I train every day, even though I know what I'm doing, when it comes to on these big moments, sometimes you need a little faith, a little luck on your side. And I think with Promise David, he'll only get better, because that's what I like. This wasn't his best game, to be honest. Like, I think Promise David will tell you that he looked a bit rough around the edges. He couldn't hold up the ball the way he liked. But the fact that he didn't have a great game and score, I will always say, is the hallmark of a great striker. So if he can build off this, all of a sudden I'm really excited for October 1st when they play Newcastle at home. In not quite their stadium, I don't think, because it's not approved for European football. But in their first home game, I think it's going to be a super special occasion.
And Jonathan David had an assist for Juventus in a thrilling 4-3 victory over Inter Milan on the weekend. But didn't look too good in his Champions League debut for Juventus, and Vlahovic came in and was exceptional in a 4-4 draw against Dortmund. What do you see from these other Canadians on the first day of Champions League, Brendan?
Yeah, I think we all had mixed viewing for this, right? For a stretch there, I wasn't watching Villarreal. Then for a stretch there, the last final stretch, talk about my luck, I didn't see any of the Vlahovic show and the thrilling parts of Juve. I just saw the score updates. But from what I did see of Jonathan David, and we've had this conversation before about him, I forget the word you used, lackluster or something along those lines. Then he scored. We must have been talking about Parma. And I said, well, how many Lille matches were like that? And Alex took defense and said, I forget what stats you use or which game examples you gave. But I kind of felt like there was, in that period at Lille for a long time, I felt like there was games that he was on the score sheet and he wasn't necessarily noticeable. And this game, I don't know if it was that he was ineffective or maybe just not as involved, or is it as glaring because his replacement, who they've been trying to shop for 2 years, comes in and destroys the game and takes over, and therefore David looks bad. Like, I don't think he had a poor hour. I just think he wasn't the hero, and the hero happened to be the guy that replaced him. I don't actually think it was a bad hour from him. It was, Juve as a whole didn't really get anything going and weren't able to play their game. And also, I don't think that the comeback is going to be their game either. I don't think that that's how Juve is not going to win or take points many times this season playing like that at the end. They got lucky. And if there was a few more minutes and out of time, they would have won. With the momentum in that place, like they absolutely would have won. But I don't think that's going to be the norm.
Well, I mean, if you look at the game, Brendan, like I guess he's done it enough that you can say it's sustainable, but what's sustainable about Kenan Yildiz cutting in and scoring an absolute thunder of a goal, like top bins, and then just the rest of the game was wild. They were all bangers. I don't know what the script makers were on in this one, but I think it's clear now, having seen a few games of Jonathan David in Juventus, Jonathan David is going to have to get used to the system, and I think the system's going to have to get used to Jonathan David. But also, I think just Juventus as a whole needs to figure out what their attacking identity is, because one thing I do notice is like they just got so many different profiles, and that's why it's fascinating, because Jonathan David, Loic Openda, and Dusan Vlahovic are also 3 very different strikers. So it's I guess there's gonna have to be a figuring out of who fits best with who should lead the line in certain games. In this game, like Openda, I think of him as a guy who can get in behind and really cause problems. Dortmund was sitting deep below, right? Like that's almost why Vlahovic works. Vlahovic is a bit more of a battering ram. He came in and the game was just there for him to open, whereas Openda tried to stretch a game that wasn't there to be stretched. So yeah, I think with Juventus, they got to figure out what the heck the profiles are. And also, where's the ball going to come from? Because in this game, their 2 wingbacks were Cambiasso and McKennie, and I was just not seeing anything from them progressively. McKennie, you always know what you're going to get in terms of work rate, and similar to Cambiasso, but there was just nothing going on in terms of actually getting the ball up the field in terms of the wingback. So for Juventus, it's a weird time, and there's a lot to figure out up front. But don't forget up the back. Like Juventus conceded 7 goals in 2 games. Like, this is a team that Buffon, Barzagli, Bonucci, Chiellini, like going from that to Lloyd Kelly, these guys must be sitting there watching, like, what the heck? And shout out to Kelly, scored a great goal, but defensively, him and his mates at the back, Bremer and Kalulu, they didn't exactly paint themselves in glory. So it's a Juventus team, I think, that's going through some teething right now. They got a lot of pieces, and I think they're going to be very good, but it's not been as smooth as hoped. But hey, they're still getting results, which I think shows how good of a team they can be.
And with Tajon and Tani at Villarreal as well. Of course, it wasn't exactly a dream debut for Tajon in the Champions League for Villarreal, that 1-0 loss to Tottenham. But how can they move on from this performance? And should Tani have seen minutes in this one, Brendan?
Yeah, it would have been nice to have seen Tani. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if Marcelino felt like they would be able to play their game, but I thought they did a pretty good job of stifling and frustrating Spurs. Like, I don't think that Tottenham had a rhythm at all in the game. If anything, Villarreal were unlucky not to have maybe stolen an equalizer. They had 10 efforts. I think 9 was the lowest on Champions League Matchday 1. There was a lot of offense on Matchday 1. But I think Villarreal will be fine. They are not out of their depth. I don't think that Spurs are a team that's going to find it easy to get to the next round, the knockout round. I mean, in a lot of ways. Are they better than the team that finished 17th in the Premier League? Yes. I don't think they were as bad as the team that finished 17th, and that's why they won the Europa League, and they're here in the Champions League now. But I think that Villarreal they have plenty of road to bounce back from that, and they're still integrating some pieces. They show that they're a good team and a tough team to play against. I just don't know if they're going to score as many goals as we would like, because obviously Buchanan and Aloise would be in the middle of that. But it's still early. Both of those players, I think, are still integrating. Obviously, Tawny's brand new still, but I'm excited to see the next few match days in the Champions League for Villarreal.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember too, they were away to a Premier League side that started the year pretty well under a new coach, and the only reason they lost was 1-0 off a goal where their goalkeeper decided he forgot how to catch and punched the ball into his own net. That was an incredible own goal, by the way. For whatever reason you haven't seen it, one of the best you're going to find. But otherwise, like, they held their own. One thing I would stand out, just because, of course, I'm watching it from a Canadian perspective, I was surprised Buchanan played on the left and not the right, because I think he's been so good on the right lately. And I think when he's on the right, there's a bit less hesitation because he just knows he's going to go to the byline. And I think you could see him playing on the left in this game. He wasn't as dangerous with the ball at feet. On the flip side, he got a chance. I think it was around 35th minute that he'll really be thinking about this week, where Nicolas Pepe set him up. He had all the time to pick a corner and he just completely missed it. But other than that, I felt Buchanan was a bit ineffective on the left compared to what he usually can be. So we'll be interesting to see if they go back to usually, because Marcelino's liked having his right footers and left footers on the outside of the wing instead of cutting inside. So that was a bit of a rare tactical tweak that I don't think worked out as much as it could have, although Pepe had some really good moments on the right.